Welcome to the Greenlight Investor for the week ending July 24th, 2015. The goal of the Greenlight Investor is to provide a resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. The examples shown are exactly that. They're examples of how you can use this worksheet to make investment choices within your 401k plan. Please refer to your own investment policy to make sure that the choices you make are appropriate for both your investment time horizon as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking on risk in financial markets. With that said, let's go right to our worksheet. The worksheet is set up with the investment choices available to you on the left side of the sheet. They're listed by fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and a brief description of the type of fund that it is. We have the fund symbol highlighted. If you'd like to do additional research, you can click on any of these and go to an external resource page that will give you additional information about any of the funds. The center columns, those are set up to show you the performance of each of the funds in your 401k. Each week we'll update this information by updating the closing price, the month-to-date return, the quarter-to-date return, and the year-to-date return. We feel that this is important so you can keep track of your investment choices and see how they're doing relative to other investments available to you within each of the different categories. And finally, let's go to what I think is the most important and unique feature of this worksheet, and it's the current weekly trend section. This is on the right side, and it's anchored by column V. Column V shows the relative strength change on a week-over-week basis for each of the funds. What this means is when you see bright reds, those will be the weakest performing funds each week, and the green, and especially the brighter greens, will be the stronger performing funds each week. As you scroll down, you can see how this works. We'll have a green fund that's been relatively strong this week, and the high yield fund here that we're highlighting has been one of the weaker performing funds each week. And as you go down the sheet, you can quickly see which funds have been strongest and which have been weakest. In addition to that feature, on the right side of column V, you'll see each week where we update the relative strength trend for each of your funds. We have a green section, which means that they're generally performing in a positive way, and we have the red cells, which will highlight funds that are generally underperforming the rest of the funds in the field. You can tell how strong they are by the numerical value in each of the cells. When you see them getting stronger numbers or increasing the value of the numbers, those funds are the ones that are tending to perform stronger. And when the numerical values are weakening, that shows that those funds are showing a relatively weak performance. It's also easy to go down and see as a category, for instance, the fixed income funds. We're seeing a lot of red, especially in columns U and W. Column U is the long-term trend for each of the funds, and that's probably one of the most important columns to check each week when you make decisions within your 401k. And then on a weekly basis, you can confirm that choice by looking at the cell across from the fund that you're in or that you're looking at. If that's a red cell, you'll want to stay away from funds that are generally red to the left of column V and red to the right of column V. When you see the green and the green, those are the funds that we're searching for to try to stay invested in. Those are generally the stronger funds that we'll want to be in. We're also looking at the short-term performance, which just gives you an early snapshot of whether the funds are generally going higher or lower on a week-over-week basis. The intermediate term is generally about a month or so, gives you an idea of how they're performing on an intermediate. And then the longer term is 6 months to a year, and that'll give you a better idea of how the fund is performing. And again, the relative strength scores will show whether the different funds are strengthening or whether they're getting weaker. With that said, let's see how we can use this to look at the overall strength of the market. In our example, we showed that the fixed income is showing a lot of red to the right and left. So right now we're generally staying away from that. The fixed income, we are also seeing a lot of red on both sides. We're seeing neutral actually on the left side of column V. So we're tending to stay away from that one also right now. The U.S. equity funds right now is somewhat mixed, but you see that we're starting to see just a bit more red showing up, so the caution is certainly advised. With lots of neutral signs, it doesn't mean to take immediate action, but as this number increases and we start to see red cells, that will warrant action as far as allocating or adjusting the allocations you have. As we scroll down to the international funds, we're seeing that that's populated fairly heavily with the red cells, and we're also seeing a lot of neutral, as well as we're starting to see a few of the red bearish cells to the left of column V. Finally, when we go to the sector funds, those are generally staying green, but as in all of the other categories, we are starting to see the red up here. So time to be just a little bit cautious and make sure you're aware of the funds that you're invested in. And to show you how we can use this worksheet to make investment choices or adjustments to your investment portfolio, we can click on View and Custom Views. In the Custom View section, we have the capital letters that show my current allocation, and that's where you can keep track of what you're currently invested in. If you click Show, you can see how our sample is set up. We're seeing that we have a 10% allocation in the stock market fund. We have a 55% allocation into the Vanguard Retirement Trust, which is a cash fund. As we scroll down, we see that our target to U.S. growth in income is 5%, but we've also moved that over to the money market fund or the cash reserves. So that's why we show that we currently have a 0% invested, even though we'd like to have the 5% target. For the U.S. equities, we have a 30% target, but we've recently moved 10% of that over to the cash fund. And finally, we are moving down to the final two categories, where the international, we would like to have 30% of the capital allocated, but because of the number of red cells and yellow cells that started to appear, we moved that capital to the money market for the short term until we start to see the green cells reappear. And our target into the sector funds is 15%. We currently have 15% with 10% in the financial services and 5% in the healthcare. And that's how we look at the funds each week. And to see if there's any adjustments to be made, you simply slide the cells over so that you can see column U, V, and W. And we'll look at each of the categories. When we look at our first index fund, let me slide that back over. We have a 10% allocation, and we're seeing in the long-term trend, we're still green or bullish. And to the right of that, we're still positive, but we are showing weakness on a week-over-week basis. So with the two green lights, we're still fine in that, so there's no action needed. As we scroll down, the money market's just meant to be a safe place to stay. And right now with the two green lights, you're seeing that that's been a relatively strong performer compared to the other funds. As we scroll down, our current allocation to fixed income is 0, and the reason for that is the amount of red that we're seeing. The one thing that's interesting to note is that you are starting to see a little bit of strength forming in a couple of these, so this may be stabilizing. If we start to see more green lights appear on the left side, that'll be an early warning sign that these are strengthening, and we would start to allocate capital back to these funds. As we go down, we have a similar situation where we'd like to have 5%, but we've seen a lot of red lights show up, and then a lot of yellow, as well as a mixture of one red and one green. So with that, we moved over to the money market. Here in our 30%, we have 20% allocated. We're seeing a mixture, but let's see if there's any action needed on our 20%. The 20% that's allocated is currently showing a green light and a green light. So with that situation, there's nothing to do. Our international funds, we have 0 allocated. Again, the reason is we're seeing a lot of red to the right, and we're starting to see a lot of yellow and red to the left of column B. So with that said, we're staying in money market. When we start to see more green appear, especially in the short and intermediate term, then we'll want to look for a green light and a green light situation to place capital back into this category. And our sector funds, we have a 10% allocation. This is showing a green light and a green light, so there's no action needed. And the 5% we have is also in a green light and a green light situation. And this has actually been showing a fairly strong relative strength. As you can see by the green lights to the right, long-term strength in the column U, and we're seeing a strong green light in the column V under the relative strength trend change column. So that said, that's continuing to perform well. That's all you need to do to review your fund selection each week. With the green lights in the situation that we're at, there's no action needed, and that's all there is to it. Let's go back to our worksheet by clicking Custom Views. We'll go with Performance Columns, and that takes us back to our home page. That's what I've got for the week. I hope it's been helpful and gives you some ideas and resources to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. If you'd like to find out more how the Greenlight Investor can help make sense of your 401k allocations, simply visit our website at greenlightinvestor.org, or you can always send me an email at jweixner@greenlightinvestor.org, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or set up a time to go over this worksheet and help you learn how to use it for your personal investment situations. That's what I've got for this week. Thank you for taking the time to go through this. I hope you have a great week.